I want to take a shot at something. Again, having to do with politics, I got a few posts regarding politics, but about our red and blue map. If you look back at the 1850s and 60s, the issues of industrialism and economics and slavery broke the country north and south pretty strong. The west was a little different once you get to the Mississippi, but north and south is where the political ideas galvanized. The rise of the Republican Party, really in 1856, where it first, with John C. Fremont, when it first made its appearance, really was centered on northern issues, and so all those political issues that you would have gone to the polls to vote for sort of gathered around whether you were pro-northern, economically, politically, socially, culturally, or whether you were southern. And the fact that most southern issues, people all lived around each other, meant you could unify as a single group. You could call yourselves the Southern Confederacy, something like that. After that, the policy issues continued to carry sort of a north-south divide in a lot of things up through the New Deal. And the New Deal was very interesting because policies that were launched by FDR had an appeal in the South, economic policies for very difficult regions, struggling since World War I, but even Depression even before that, since the Civil War. But after that, once you get towards the World War II area, you find a big mix. There's not strong zones. Today's political map, however, is very strong. As you all know, if you look at the political map these days, the red and blue map, you'll know that it is a very stark map, but it's just not stark geographically. It's stark demographically. So that it's not a north or a south or an east or a west or anything like that. It's really an urban and a rural distinction, and the colors are as chiaroscuro as they would have been in the 1860s. It's just that you don't have Philadelphia, Manhattan, Los Angeles, and Austin, Texas all next to each other. Right? They're all separated by these huge swaths of red, which are these rural areas. So you've got this very deep red in rural and these very deep blues in the urban. And then, culture and computer tie them together, so you can share these ideas from city to city, and of course the rural can share ideas too, but they're not pulled together geographically like they were in the 1860s. And the question is why? Why is that so stark? And there's lots of reasons why, I'm sure, and I don't mean to tackle all of them, but one thing I did think of, and this, having spent some time as a kid in Manhattan, grown up on a farm, spent some time in cities and in the country, maybe getting a feel for what that is, it occurred to me, in this last election specifically, although I think it's always interested me, that in the country and rural side, people are they're much more focused on questions of why and how. In the countryside, changes are connected directly to causes. You see in your small town something happen, well, McDonald's goes up, or something changes in town, a new product or something, and you can see life sort of change around that. And in the cities, change happens very rapidly and almost without cause. It almost just is. And I would say that maybe one of the distinctions could be that the worldview or the sense of living in a city is a sense of thatness. Now, things just are. People just come up with new ideas. Things happen. Technologies are there. You don't ask, how did this building? How do I get electric into my lights? How did these changes happen? Why? It just is. Where in the countryside, in the rural side, it's more of a whyness. It's not so much thatness. You're not faced just with things as they are. You're faced with things in process. Really, you're faced with changes that you can see develop, and a lifestyle, quite frankly, that you have to live in a how or a why. Do you know what I mean? So, learning how life works, learning how electric works or plumbing works, or how I have to develop, or how I have to learn how my machines work if I'm living on a farm. There's a lot of hows and whys that go into the country living, where in the urban setting, quite frankly, there's not as many. You think that things just aren't, so you see moral problems as just are-ness. This just is, and it is wrong. But you don't calculate maybe how to get this way, or what has to be done to actually fix it. Some of those questions maybe don't come to your mind as quickly. You're just faced with the thatness of inequality, the thatness of this being wrong. I don't have this when I need it. they don't have it when they need it. In the countryside, I think people typically don't think quite that way. They ask more, "Hey, how do we get here?" And they see the cost of something involved. Well, you want to change this, geez, you really got to change all this. I mean, you're thinking on a different end of the equation, right? So in that one, you're thinking in the causal side of the equation. How did we get here? What has to be done? What investments have to be made? Can it really change? Is it possible? Where in the city or the urban mentality, maybe you're not thinking quite along those lines. You're just looking at things being wrong and saying, I don't like it. And so one really has the benefit of understanding how the world works, I think. You know, having to get your hands dirty and figure out how and why things function in a more rural environment. In an urban environment, you have a real sensitivity to things being wrong, injustices being wrong and needing to be repaired. And I think just from that perspective alone, you're going to get people that are going to think about the economy differently as on the country, whether things can or can't be done, or what's the cost of really trying to make this sort of a change to the economy, to welfare, to the environment, for example. Environmental issues, very big in the cities. Because you look out and you say, we just don't need this. We don't want global, rise in global temperatures, whatever the case is. And on the countryside, you go, yeah, I get that, but do you see what it takes to do that? I mean, do you really think these things are going to work? So you might be asking a thatness question or a whyness question, and maybe that's one of the distinctions between the red and the blue. It creates severe cultural differences. Maybe not enough to, lead us to war, but certainly profound cultural differences.